how can I find peace in my twin sister's death when I'm forced to live with my stepmom who caused it? I want to share a deeply personal story about loss, grief, and the struggle to find peace after a tragedy. It all began when I was just 17 years old, living with my father, my stepmother, and my two younger brothers. I had an identical twin sister, and we were inseparable. We did everything together. She was truly my best friend. Last September, everything changed. My dad was out of town, and my stepmother was supposed to pick us up from a volleyball game. Typically, it was my dad who would come for us, but that night, my stepmother was an hour late because she had taken a nap and forgot about us. When we finally got into the car, she started ranting about how we had disturbed her rest. Tragically, during that drive home, she ran a stop sign. The accident was horrific. I remember the moments leading up to it. But everything after is a blur. I was hospitalized for weeks, but my twin sister didn't survive. The loss was devastating. I felt like a part of me had been ripped away, and I struggled to cope with the reality of living without her. What made it even harder was my stepmother's refusal to acknowledge her role in the accident. Despite eyewitness accounts, she acted as if nothing had happened, as if my sister had never existed. I couldn't even look at her without feeling a deep sense of betrayal. It was as if she had stolen my sister's life from me, and her indifference only added to my pain. One day, while out shopping with my dad and stepmother, an old man asked my dad how many children he had. He replied that he had 4, but my stepmother quickly corrected him, saying, "No, 3. That comment hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't speak to her for the rest of the day, feeling the weight of my sister's absence more than ever. As time went on, I found myself drifting through life like a zombie. I often dreamed of my sister, only to wake up and feel crushed by the reality that she was gone. Living without her felt unbearable. I struggled to find joy in anything, and I often felt isolated in my grief. Then came a moment that would change everything. My stepmother decided to host a special dinner for her birthday, after the accident. I had stopped eating with the family because it felt wrong to sit at the table without my sister. I preferred to eat alone in my room, but my dad insisted I join them that night. Reluctantly, I agreed. During dinner, my stepmother announced that she was pregnant. My younger brothers were thrilled, excitedly discussing the prospect of having a little sister. But then, she mentioned that she intended to use my twin sister's room for the nursery. My heart sank. I asked her why she hadn't informed me before moving my sister's belongings. To me, that room was sacred. It was a place where I felt closest to my sister. Her response was defensive. She insisted that she didn't need to consult me because she was the mother of the household and was doing what was best for her baby. When she told me I needed to accept my sister's death and move on, I snapped. I couldn't hold back my emotions any longer. I told her that while I understood she was having a baby, a little consideration for my feelings would have gone a long way. That moment was a turning point for me. I realized that I needed to confront my grief, not just for myself, but for my sister's memory. I started seeking ways to honor her and keep her spirit alive in my heart. I began talking to a counselor who helped me navigate my feelings of anger and sadness. I learned that it was okay to grieve, and that healing takes time. As I continue on this journey, I'm learning to find peace amidst the chaos. I still miss my sister every day, but I'm finding ways to carry her memory with me. I'm learning to express my feelings and to communicate my needs, even when it's difficult. It's a long road ahead. But I'm determined to find my way through the darkness and into the light. This experience has taught me the importance of compassion, understanding, and the power of healing. I hope that by sharing my story, I can inspire others who are struggling with similar losses to find their own path to peace. Losing my twin sister was a tragedy that changed my life forever. The pain of her absence is something I carry with me every day. It's been a struggle to find peace. Especially since I now live with my stepmother, who I believe played a significant role in the circumstances surrounding my sister's death. The tension in our home has been palpable. Just the other day, during dinner, I felt the weight of my grief pressing down on me. My stepmother, in her usual dismissive manner, suggested that I needed to move on because nothing would bring my sister back. I could feel anger bubbling inside me, so I excused myself from the table. That's when my dad started yelling, claiming I was being dramatic and that I needed to return or face consequences. As I walked away, my stepmother's voice cut through the air. I don't understand what her problem is. She couldn't even bother to be happy about my pregnancy, but she's angry about me moving things out of an unoccupied bedroom. I turned around, disbelief washing over me. It felt as if she was erasing my sister from existence. This wasn't the first time I had witnessed her disregard for my sister's memory. A couple of months ago, while shopping for my younger brother's birthday present, an older man asked my dad how many children he had. My dad replied that he had 4, but my stepmother quickly interjected, "No, 3. It was as if my sister had never been a part of our family. That day, I finally snapped. I confronted her about how her actions had caused every major traumatic event in my life. I reminded her that she had knowingly started a relationship with a married man, shattering our family and sending my mother into a deep depression. I also brought up the car accident that had hospitalized me for weeks, a result of her carelessness. I lost my sister because she was distracted. I told her that removing my sister's belongings without my consent was cruel. I wasn't angry about her new baby. I was furious about the lack of respect for my sister's memory. When she told me to move on from my sister's death, I couldn't hold back. I asked her if she truly believed that my sister's death was unavoidable. Her response? It was just unlucky fate. That was the moment I lost it. I reminded her that my sister would still be alive if she hadn't been so careless. In a moment of frustration, I told her that my life would have been easier if she had never come into it. The look on her face was heartbreaking, and my dad called me heartless. I did apologize moments later, but the damage was done. Since then, my dad has given me the silent treatment, and my stepmother has been avoiding me. In the aftermath of this confrontation, I found myself reflecting on my relationship with my family. My mother, who has been a source of support, has her own struggles. We text every day and try to FaceTime at least twice a week, but I hesitate to share the depths of my pain with her. I don't want to trigger her own grief, especially after losing my sister. My parents' divorce had already been a difficult chapter in our lives, and when my grandfather fell ill, my mother chose to stay in France to care for him. That decision left my sister and me with our dad in the US. I often wonder how different things might have been if we had been able to stay with her. As I navigate this challenging situation, I've considered seeking therapy. However, my dad is against it, believing it would fill my head with negative thoughts. He insists that I can talk to him or our pastor instead, but I don't feel comfortable doing so. I've been thinking about my future and what it holds. I have dual citizenship, which opens up possibilities for me. I've started to develop an escape plan for when I turn 18. I want to be with my mother in France, where I feel I can find some semblance of peace away from the turmoil of my current home life. The journey of healing is long and complicated, but I'm determined to find my way through the darkness. I know that I have the right to feel my emotions and to seek support, even if my family doesn't understand. Finding peace after such a profound loss is a challenge. But it's one I'm ready to face head-on. It's been a challenging journey for me, one that began with the heartbreaking loss of my twin sister. The grief was overwhelming, and it felt as if my world had shattered. To make matters worse, I found myself living with my stepmother, who I believed played a role in my sister's death. The tension in our home was palpable, and I often felt trapped in a situation that was suffocating. As I navigated my grief, Thoughts of moving to France began to swirl in my mind. I had a strong grasp of the language, being fluent in conversation, but I struggled with writing and lacked the vocabulary needed for professional settings. I worried that my language skills might hinder my ability to find a job there. Despite these concerns, I started looking into colleges in my state, hoping to find a fresh start after graduation. I even toured a few campuses with friends and found one that I really liked. However, my father kept all my important documents, making it difficult for me to plan my future. Fast forward nearly 5 months, and so much had changed. I finally mustered the courage to share my story online, seeking support from strangers who might understand my pain. Little did I know, my post would go viral on social media. My stepmother's younger sister stumbled upon it and shared it with their family group chat. When my stepmother saw the comments, she lost it. Suddenly, I was grounded. My phone and laptop were taken away, and I was confined to my room. My stepmother and father accused me of being disrespectful for airing our family's struggles in public. Things escalated when my stepmother experienced a miscarriage, which she blamed on me. She claimed that my actions had caused too much stress for her. The situation became unbearable, and I felt completely isolated. My father tried to convince me to apologize, but I couldn't understand what I would be apologizing for. My stepmother had a history of complications, and I knew that my sister's death was not my fault. As the days passed, my mental health deteriorated. I fell into a dark place, and one night, when my family was out, I made a desperate choice. I attempted to take my life by overdosing on medication. The pain was excruciating, and I remember waking up in a haze, only to find myself in the emergency room. I was terrified and confused, and when I was discharged, I was sent to a psychiatric facility for a little over a week. When I returned home, my father was distant, and I felt like a stranger in my own house. He had read my journals, where I had poured out my feelings of despair and anger. I was forced to read those entries aloud to him, my stepmother, and even our pastor, who gave me a long lecture about letting go of the past. My stepmother made it clear that she didn't want me there, and my father threatened to send me to a behavioral camp for troubled kids. The restrictions on my life felt suffocating. I was constantly monitored, and I couldn't even play volleyball, which was something I loved. I felt stuck, and the thought of being sent away to a camp filled me with dread. I had heard horror stories about those places, and I knew I had to find a way out. In a moment of desperation, I took my stepmother's iPad in the middle of the night and called my best friend. I explained everything that had been happening, and her family agreed to help me. I packed a few bags, taking items that reminded me of my sister, and planned my escape. I cleverly obtained my birth certificate and social security card by telling my stepmother I needed them for a job interview. For 2 nights, my best friend drove to my house at around 3 a.m. to help me gather my belongings. On the 3rd night, I finally found where my father had hidden my phone and laptop, and I took them back. That night, I left with my best friend, ready to start a new chapter away from the chaos. This journey has been filled with ups and downs, but I am determined to find my peace and honor my sister's memory in a way that allows me to heal. I know the road ahead will be challenging, but I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. Life can take unexpected turns, and sometimes those turns can lead us down paths we never imagined. My story begins with a tragedy that changed everything for me. I lost my twin sister in a car accident, and the circumstances surrounding her death were deeply painful, especially because they involved my stepmother. After the accident, my life felt like it was spiraling out of control. My father, who had custody of my sister and me after my parents' divorce, was embroiled in a complicated situation. He had cheated on my mother, which led to their separation when I was just 8 years old. My mother moved to France shortly after, and my sister and I were left to navigate life with our father and stepmother. In the wake of my sister's death, I felt trapped. My father was not supportive, and my stepmother's presence only intensified my grief. I made the difficult decision to leave home, seeking refuge with my mother's cousin. It was a relief to escape the toxicity of my father's household, and I felt a sense of safety for the first time in months. 3 months passed, and I was grateful to be away from my father and stepmother. I hadn't heard from them, and it seemed they were not on good terms either. As I approached my 18th birthday, I felt a sense of liberation, knowing I would no longer be legally obligated to see my father. I had plans to move to Europe after graduating high school, where I could be closer to my mother. My mother had her struggles, battling her own demons of mental health and alcoholism, but she had been working hard to turn her life around. She had been sober for almost a year and was a constant source of support for me. We talked every day, and I cherished our conversations. She even visited for Thanksgiving, and it was heartwarming to see her doing better. Despite the progress, the pain of losing my sister lingered. I thought of her every single day. And the reminders of her absence were everywhere. I often found myself staring into the mirror, seeing her reflection in my own features. The grief was overwhelming, and I felt like I was just going through the motions of life. I struggled with feelings of hopelessness, questioning how long I could keep going. I didn't want to die, but I also didn't want to continue feeling this way. The only thing that kept me grounded was the thought of my mother. I knew that if I were to give in to my darkest thoughts, it would send her spiraling back into her struggles, and I couldn't bear that. I reached out for help, recognizing that I needed support to navigate my grief. I began to explore therapy options and grief support groups. I learned that it was okay to seek help and that I wasn't alone in my feelings. The journey of healing is not linear, and I've come to understand that grief is a complex and often cruel companion. Through this process, I've realized that my sister would want me to find happiness and peace. She loved me deeply, and I know she would want me to remember the good moments we shared, rather than be consumed by the pain of her absence. As I continue to heal, I hold on to the hope that one day I will find a sense of peace. I'm learning to honor my sister's memory while also allowing myself to live fully. It's a challenging path, but I'm determined to walk it. Not just for myself, but for her as well. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that.